They drove out before sunrise, 2 Range Rovers ghosting through the misted rhododendrons of Windsor Great Park. No outriders, no flashing blues, just the muffled crunch of gravel under tires and a dawn chorus that hadn't yet realized royalty was passing by. Inside the lead car, Prince William tapped the steering wheel in that silent rhythm staff no means tactical thinking. Beside him, Catherine pinned loose hair into a clip and stared out at the yew tree silhouettes, already imagining how children's laughter would echo between those Gothic turrets if today went well. Fort Belvedere, 8 bedrooms ringed by a moat of legend, the very drawing room where King Edward VIII set quill to parchment and traded crown for love. 90 years of royal folklore calls it the Abdication House, a label so radioactive that for decades no direct heir would even picnic near its lawns. Yet here came the future king and queen, tape measure and architectural advisor in the boot, determined to test whether ghosts might be tamed by the giggle of 3 21st-century Wales children. The case for the fort. Adelaide Cottage has served its purpose: 4 snug bedrooms, a postage stamp garden, privacy enough for Charlotte's cartwheels and Louis's chalk murals, but the walls are closing in. George, now 12, revises Latin declensions while Louis practices trumpet in the corridor. Homework trembles under decibels. Catherine keeps a brave face but whispers to friends that personal space shouldn't feel like a state secret. Fort Belvedere, by contrast, sprawls over 59 acres, paddocks for pony gallops, a walled rose garden perfect for the earthshot seed bank she dreams of launching, stables to shelter Charlotte's future eventer, and a private tennis court Charlotte could claim at dusk without paparazzi drones whirring overhead. Strategically, the estate sits 16 minutes' drive from Eton, an unspoken prerequisite now that George's entrance exams loom. Security officers prefer one vast, controllable perimeter to half a dozen stopgap cottages. And the moat, yes, there is a literal moat, offers natural defense against long lens intrusion and metaphorical separation from royal soap opera swirling downriver. The King's Ledger. But every advantage carries a ledger line, and King Charles has become the monarchy's accountant-in-chief. 2 years into his reign, he is trimming budgets like a diligent gardener deadheading roses, fewer grace and favor flats, streamlined patronage trips, a stern memo about palace energy usage. Belvedere's price tag: roof repairs, asbestos removal, net zero heat pumps, antique window glazing, could scrape £10 million before the first family photograph. Charles regards that figure with the same expression he once reserved for botched topiary: pained, pursed, unforgiving. Optics, William, he cautioned during last week's Sandringham supper, the words floating between roasted grouse and chemotherapy side effects. The Country reads headlines, not footnote nuance. But nuance matters. The Prince of Wales privately funds interior decor and routine maintenance on Adelaide. He is prepared to do likewise at the fort. Catherine's inheritance from her grandmother's trust, plus long-term Duchy of Cornwall revenue streams, could underwrite most costs without dipping into sovereign grant coffers. Still, perception feeds tabloids faster than spreadsheets. Camilla's quiet doubts. Queen Camilla, meanwhile, calibrates every social dial around Charles's health. She fears a front-page splash: heir splurges millions at Abdication Mansion while King undergoes treatment, could swamp the goodwill painstakingly accrued since the coronation. She also recognizes the symbolic shiver: the couple would move into the house where a monarch once abandoned duty. What message does that send when Charles is battling rogue cells yet refusing to abandon throne or public diary? Camilla's allies leak soft disapproval. Perhaps the Waleses might consider a modern ecolodge on existing Crown Estate land, purpose-built and carbon-negative. William hears them out but knows an architect-designed glass cube in the home park would trigger far louder howls about futurist ego and broken sightlines. At least Belvedere is pre-existing stone, steeped in story. The haunted blueprint. Superstition mutters through palace corridors. The fort has housed divorces, twilight affairs, abdication angst. One equerry claims the library's floorboard still creaks under invisible footsteps at dusk. Royal archivists insist Edward's ghost lingers, restless at the notion of a working king reclaiming his sanctuary. William shrugs. We modernize, we exorcise. Catherine, whose charity focus is early years mental health, sees reclamation therapy in bricks and mortar. Turn the Abdication House into the Continuity House, she told her private secretary. Teach the children that history is a tool, not a chain. She imagines converting the disused orangery into a youth counseling studio, the lake boathouse into an Earthshot biodiversity classroom. In her vision, each cursed corner sprouts purpose. The Spencer variable. Enter the Spencer clan. Lady Jane and Lady Sarah, Diana's sisters, have quietly encouraged the idea. They argue that reclaiming Edward's renegade outpost could complete Diana's unfinished project of humanizing the monarchy. Earl Spencer, protective of familial legacy, hints at philanthropic contributions if restoration emphasizes mental health outreach. Harry, across the Atlantic, watches the property chessboard with renewed interest. Belvedere's history echoes his own narrative of love versus institution. Some courtiers fear a Sussex surprise cameo at any future housewarming could overshadow the king's messaging. Negotiation by numbers. Civil servants draw up 3 scenarios. Full acquisition, Wales's lease Belvedere long-term, fund refurbishment personally, with Crown Estate shouldering structural essentials. Media blowback expected but fades within a year as community access programs launch. Partial license, family uses only residential West Wing, East Wing converts to Public Heritage Centre honoring abdication history and House of Windsor reconciliation. Costs divided, PR softened. Deferred transfer, Charles withholds approval, Adelaide gets an extension remodel and a subterranean security suite. Wales's revisit after coronation +5. William favours option 1, decisive, future-proof. Charles leans option 3 until chemo results settle and economic forecasts brighten. Camilla warms to option 2, symbolism harnessed, costs halved. The children's vote. None of the grown-ups counted on Louis. During a secret site visit last month, the youngest Wales discovered the turret staircase and declared, "This is my dragon tower." Soon Charlotte found the tennis court baseline perfect for practicing her serve away from iPhone flashes. George asked the security officer if the moat ever freezes for skating. Their excitement filtered up to Catherine, then to William, and like ivy the idea crept further into their hearts. Charles's ultimatum. On Monday, Charles summoned his heir to Balmoral's drawing room. Autumn wind rattled window panes while thrush song trickled through fir branches. "I will not be the king who preaches thrift while signing checks for gilded gargoyles," Charles said, voice hoarse. "Then let us gild the future," William replied, sliding across a dossier, projected visitor revenue from heritage tours, carbon-neutral retrofit plans, a ring-fenced education bursary paid from duchy profits. Belvedere can fund itself and fund your legacy trust. Charles studied the numbers. Reduce first phase spend by 15%. Prove community utility within 3 years. Bring me revised drawings before Christmas. It wasn't approval, but nor was it a no. Catherine's counterplay. That evening Catherine phoned architectural philanthropist Sir J, secured pro bono design tweaks, and lined up a corporate sustainability sponsor eager to bask in regal green creds. She called Carol. The Middleton matriarch pledged support for a seasonal craft fair in Belvedere's stables benefiting local families. Each pledge shaved pounds off Charles's ledger, layered philanthropic goodwill atop ghost-ridden stone. The waiting game. Now, Windsor Great Park braces for verdict. Surveyors mark damp patches, heritage officers sample lead paint, paparazzi zoom from distant footpaths hoping to catch a glimpse of William pacing the parapet. Public opinion splits, some hail the foresight of converting a dormant gem into a working family base, others decry royal excess. Talk radio hosts debate whether abdicating ghosts will haunt a would-be George VII study session. #Belvedere bounce trends on X. Memes depict Edward VIII handing William the house keys with a wink. The King's scan results. Meanwhile, an oncologist prints out Charles's latest blood work. Early indicators look encouraging. If the King's health stabilizes, his resistance to costly symbolism may harden again. If complications arise, he might confront his own mortality and choose to secure his heir's long-term footing quickly. Belvedere negotiations turn on white cell counts and PET scan glows as much as on budgets. What happens next? November, revised cost savings plan lands on Charles's desk. Camilla quietly lobbies for partial public option. December, Windsor Planning Committee reviews environmental impact assessment, already pre-cleared informally. January, If Charles signs, external scaffolding appears by spring. If he hesitates, Adelaide undergoes winter retrofit and Belvedere slumbers on. April, George sits pre-Eton assessments. A decision before then signals confidence. Whatever Charles decides, the symbolism will echo. Approving Belvedere says, the air requires room to breathe, modern monarchy invests for generational stability. Blocking it says, public perception and fiscal restraint outrank personal comfort. A compromise says, we recognize past scandal yet repurpose it for public good. Closing thoughts. Behind every ledger, a family writes its private story. William and Catherine hear children's footsteps on creaky turrets, Charles hears editorials about austerity, the nation hears distant hoofbeats of history galloping toward its next chapter. Fort Belvedere stands silent for now, ivy gripping its stone like fingers crossed in suspense. Whether it becomes the Wales's forever home or remains a monument to abdication, the debate itself reveals the monarchy's new tension. Tradition must share the field with transformation, legacy with logistics, sentiment with sustainability. And somewhere deep in Windsor Great Park, a moat mirrors autumn clouds, waiting to reflect either scaffolding or starlight, depending on which vision of the crown prevails.